Looks like a little more than half of the attendees have made it in. Um, we're also live on Facebook. For anyone watching on Facebook, if you want to get in on the Q&A, just email us at com at houseofpaint.ca, and Amanda will help you get in the Zoom session. We're very excited for our next piece of programming. We have Janine Beatty here from Mural Roots. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you.
Mural Roots is a national organization based in Toronto that is offering resources and education for artists and cataloging our beautiful murals across the country. Janine can tell you a lot more about what Mural Roots does. We're very, very pleased to be partnering with them for this presentation. To tell you a bit more about Janine, Janine holds a graduate certificate in Arts Administration and Cultural Management from Humber College. She received her Bachelor of Fine Arts from OCAD University with a major in criticism and curatorial practices. She participated in an independent studio placement at the Winchester School of Art in the United Kingdom. Her writing has been featured in 1 Hour Empire, Volume 2, and the Curated Histories of the Automotive Tower. In 2019, she was awarded with a fellowship at the Artscape Daniels Launchpad and was selected into the Toronto Biennial of Arts Exhibition Internship Program. Currently, Janine is looking forward to supporting the programming of public and community engaged art projects with Mural Roots. We're so happy to have you. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Thank you everyone who's participating on the call. I'd just like to start off with a bit of a land acknowledgement. I'm here in South Etobicoke, which has been traditionally the home of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the Noshombek people who cared for the land I live on long before colonial land division. I would like to acknowledge everyone who has come together in this virtual meeting space from the various places that they call home. I'm going to ask that everyone take a moment to think about the land that you are currently on, your relationship to it, how the land supports you, and how you support the land. I would also like to acknowledge everyone that is attending this virtual gathering. That is meant to be a safe place where we can learn from each other's experiences, acquire and share our knowledge. And I'm going to ask that we open our hearts and our minds to learning and connection that we seek to achieve from this event, and take away only what we need from this experience. This is a safe space for sharing ideas and an opportunity to learn and connect. So let's make this event as inclusive as possible. I am going to now share my slideshow with you. Here we go. Slide show and play. Okay, so I'm going to be discussing project management for artists, ensuring that your project achieves its goals and budgets on time. And a brief overview of this presentation, I'll give a little bit of a history about Mural Roots, and then a brief one on me because did such a good job introducing me. And then we'll go over some skills for project management. What is project management? A couple of principles that I personally like to use, and then we'll use Mural project components as examples of project management. So Mural Roots is over 25 years old. I think they're celebrating their 26th anniversary as an independent organization, but they were also affiliated with the Scarborough Arts for about 4 years before that. And So they are the only member-based nonprofit art service organization in Canada dedicated to the creation, development, and promotion of public wall art. Our vision is to inspire the creation of extraordinary public art that serves as a catalyst for community building. Mural Roots embraces public mural art as a way to change the feeling and the face of neighborhoods in a busy urban sprawl of Toronto. From creating murals, we expanded our efforts into mentoring youth, supporting artists, community, and public art, always following our motto to teach, learn, share, and grow. How you can get involved with Mural Roots. I'll be sharing links to these. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can become a member or a volunteer, and you can attend workshops and events. We also have, mural art career development classes that you can attend, and we also have an intro to mural arts class that we hold. Currently they've been postponed because of COVID, but you can sign up on our website to receive information when those are back up and running as usual. And then I will share a link to a free PDF to download our mural production handbook. And then obviously you can follow us on social media. I have these links just right here, so I'll share those. Copy and how do I get back to the chat? Here we go. Here we go. I'm on it. Maybe not. We'll go back to the slideshow. Sorry, guys. I'll share them after. Okay. So, oops. Like I said, there we go. Here we go. So there's our Twitter handle, the Facebook, Instagram. You can get updated with Mural Roots news there. And then obviously you're free to contact me, Janine, at muralroots.ca. If you have any questions or want to connect, I am totally open and free to you contacting me. So yes, I graduated from OCAD with my undergrad in criticism and curatorial practices, and then I went on to complete my postgrad in arts administration and cultural management. Both of those are very project oriented or events management oriented, with the specific in art. So my expertise is in art project management or event management. Here are some of my projects. In grade 8, I organized the end of the year dance at the Legion in Fergus, Ontario. I've had many independent and collaborative curatorial projects. And I was a communications coordinator for the X-Space Cultural Center. Freelance communication. I started my own freelance communication consultant business, which led me to being asked to start up a restaurant, which involved renovations, the grand opening, and press releases, which are all independently projects to manage underneath the umbrella of a very large project to manage. I managed that restaurant for about a year. Once the machine started rolling, I took my mat leave, and then brings me to my next point of project managing my own artistic practice, maintaining my consultancy, and then being a mom and a spouse, which is, you know, a project to manage in its own. Other projects that I have managed are under Nuit Blanche, The Mocha, and Doors Open. And then a large project that I got to be a part of was a curatorial assistant for the Toronto Biennial of Art. I was a small cog in this huge wheel of the Toronto Biennial of Art, which was put on for the first time last year in September. So it's been about a year now. And the great thing about that experience was we had 15 different locations and 90 artists. We were flying artists from Brazil and Ireland and all over the world, France, and finding them room and board in Toronto for the grand opening. So there was those kind of things on top of like curatorial things, on top of just figuring out logistics. So it was like a project manager boot camp essentially, and we made it in budget and on deadline, and it was really successful. And I was just like able to work with a bunch of really talented, insightful, really good mentors on that project. And so I came out of it a lot more confident with my skill set and my ability to problem solve and manage problems and execute projects. And it was like, yeah, such a really good learning experience for me. And it was so good to work with such talented people on the Toronto Biennial of Art. And then from there, I was the logistics lead coordinator for the Canadian Cancer Society, the Relay for Life, which unfortunately did not happen this year. It was canceled due to COVID. We were pretty far along when we finally pulled the plug on it, but hopefully next year I'll be able to use some of that planning and roll out the Relay for Life next year, fingers crossed. And then currently program manager for Mural, which involves project management around mural creation, workshops, and mural maintenance, education programs, supporting artists, and just organizing events for our members. So those are the things that I do now. Now, most people probably would not list the grade 9 dance that they organized at their local Legion on their list of projects they managed. But I want to be clear that these are skills that I have been building on for the past 20 years. I did not finish 2 degrees and walk out the door and become a successful project manager. I did use the skills that I've been cultivating since my first project in grade 8 to complete 2 degrees, numerous art projects, and run 2 side businesses in addition to my full-time jobs as in arts administration. It is through planning many projects over the course of those 20 years that I have gained the experience and the confidence to execute large-scale projects on time and within budget and talk to you about it today. And that no matter what size of the project you are working towards, you are building those project management skills yourself. So that is why I've listed the first small project that I worked on, because even at that point, there were experiences and knowledge gaining in that helps lead me to my next project, that kept the ball rolling. And you're always constantly learning, and you're always constantly building this skill set. So I don't want you to think because you haven't been a part of planning the Toronto Biennial of Art, you have to start off somewhere. You can't just expect to know everything. You have to start off somewhere, and sometimes that small step might be your grade 8 graduation dance or something. So that's why I've listed it there. I don't want to come off like it just naturally happened, or I just like graduated from these programs and it happened. Like, these are things that I've been building on my entire career. And there's been, and it's gone in different directions. Like at one point I was communications, at one point I was a restaurant manager, at one point I came back to curatorial. But they all were building in me the same kind of skill sets that you need to be an effective project manager, which is like a problem solver, a go-getter, things that you need to know, like planning, making lists, navigations, logistics, layouts, those kind of things. When you're planning a project, you're going to need to know your limits. You're preparing for the future. You're thinking about the future. So part of being a good project management is being able to envision what the project's going to look like in the future. Like, what is the end result? What's the end goal? And if you can get that clearly in your mind and all the different logistics and aspects around what that project looks like in the end, then you can start from the end and work your way back, planning what the roadmap is for that, like what the milestones need to be in place in order for you to achieve that goal. So creating lists is a big part of project management, and then knowing how you're going to navigate towards the end goal of your project and what the logistics of that are going to look like. So know your goal, create a roadmap, and then develop like what the steps are, the next steps are to get you to that plan, and have milestones on that roadmap where you can check in. So on your timeline, you're gonna have, I don't know, like PainT needs to be, you need to have PainT acquired by this date. And if it's not acquired by that date, if you don't have the money for it, or you don't have the time or the resources to pick it up, then you need to look at the other aspects of your project. And if you're going to meet that deadline, it all kind of plays in together. So you're going to set up many checkpoints along your timeline to make sure that you're going to meet that end deadline. And then if you're not meeting the milestones, then you know to check in and maybe reassess or reevaluate how you're going to get to the end result of this goal that you're seeking or project. So make sure you're heading in the right direction. Also, lay out your strategies. Those strategies, depending on your project, could be like a social media strategy. Like, if it's a social media strategy, like what's your goal? Is your goal to get more likes? Is your goal to get more followers? Is your goal to get more interactions, more comments? Like, be specific about the goals that you're hoping to achieve, and then work your way back from there about what you need to put in place to achieve the end goal. Those strategies could be volunteer recruitment or resource acquisition, growing your audience. Just be specific about what the goal is and the project that you're trying to manage. I like to start at the end. Like, it seems what you want to do and why is the easiest to clearly define, and then work your way back from there about the objectives that are going to get you there. I like to make a list of resources. Write down what you have, what you don't have, what you need, what you could acquire, and be intentional about planning what to do to access these things. Make lists of what you have and what you ideally would like to have, and how you're going to acquire those resources, i.e. leveraging an asset you have to acquire something you want. So, for instance, I currently want to do a thing on a website that I don't know how to go about programming this thing that I want to do. So I need to find someone with more web design experience than me that will be able to do this. But I don't have a lot of money to pay a website designer. So I can leverage things like you know, artist consultancy. I can leverage things like my experience in communications consultant, offer, you know, social media advice. I can also do things like paint murals if they needed, or, you know, even like daycare or cleaning, or I don't know, like you just need to make a list of the resources and assets that you have that you could offer somebody who has a resource or an asset that you would like, and see if you can come to a, you know, some sort of agreement that would benefit both parties. And that way you can move along in getting your project on the go, sharing resources. So another great quality for a program manager is to brainstorm, is to be really good at brainstorming. At the beginning of any project, it's good to just sit down and brainstorm all the possibilities that that project could take on. And afterwards, you'll see like patterns start to form. You've maybe written down the same idea, you know, a few different times in different ways. And after you've done like a comprehensive brainstorm, pick out the 3 major things that will get you to the goal of your project. And those 3 things will be the guidepost for your roadmap. So, and then you're gonna go, what is the starting point to get me to my first goal post? And then you'll have little mini mile markers in there and milestones in there. And then from your first goalpost to the next, and then you'll have your milestones in there. And then those are your check-ins until you reach the end of your project. And those are your check-ins, and those are how you're going to keep your project on task and on time and within budget. Another skill that you're going to want to have is problem solver. You're going to want to be a quick thinker and creative, and you're going to want to keep your goal of the project in mind when you're trying to solve problems quickly, because you're going to want to not compromise the end goal or objective of your project to fix a problem, just to fix a problem. Like it needs to be a fine balance of I need to solve this problem of like the paint was delayed in being delivered, but you need to also keep in mind the integrity of the project, and you can't compromise the end result or integrity of the project for trying to fix a problem real quickly. It's like a fine balance, but if you're a good problem solver, it's a really good skill to have as a project manager. So then I would go into being dedicated. This shows action. If you are dedicated to a project, it is apparent through your actions and the commitment that you show, and staying accountable to the end goal of the project. And people will see this. People working with you will see this, and that will drive them to be more accountable for the project. But also in the future too, when they're thinking about who to work with on a project, you might get a phone call if you've shown real initiative and dedication in a past project. And then focus, you always want to have a clear vision of the end result and why you're doing it. You want to stay in the scope. There's a thing called scope creep, and I'll get into it a little bit more in a next slide, or in another slide. But basically the scope of your project can get too large for the time frame and the budget that you have. Like, you know, if like when you're doing your brainstorming, if like money and time aren't an object, then that's your scope creep. But then you're going to bring it back into, well, this is how much money we have, and this is how much time we have to complete the project. And it goes in this triangle, and then you come out with the end result, which is quality. So as you go on and you get more people involved in it that are saying, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool to do this, or wouldn't it be cool to do that? And it would be if we had all the time and money in the world. But if you can stay focused on the end result and true to the reason why you're doing it, and then negotiate those wouldn't it be cool to do things, you're going to end up being able to deliver your project on time and in budget. And then confidence. As an artist and project manager, confidence is hugely important to getting people to buy in to you, to the project, to your art, to things that you're doing. So, and as an artist, you have to be hugely self-promoting. So it's important to have confidence when you're self-promoting. You know, take on the role, celebrate your talents, share them with your audience. It is skills that you've worked on, you've worked really hard on. So have some confidence in that. And when you're sharing it with other people, you're asking people to support you in a project or in your artwork. You know, show the hard work that you've put into this art practice that you have, or project that you've been working on, and people will be more apt to buy in and support you. You should have confidence in your project or your artwork in order for your audience to buy in. Confidence is a skill you can grow. If you don't feel confident right now, you can work on it. You can step into a role that you don't feel you are totally qualified for if you have the talents to back it up. You can grow into a position with confidence. You can't be qualified for everything, especially things you've never done. So with enough talent and research and hard work, you will get there, and you can learn on the internet the gaps of the skill set. And confidence attracts people more, and the more people you attract, the more resources you have, and the more resources you have, the easier it is to get to your end goal. So a personal story about that I have about applying for something that I was maybe overconfident in, didn't have 100% of the skill set for, or qualified for it, but I was confident and I ended up getting the job. So when I applied for a communications coordinator position, I brainstormed some ideas for the organization. I came up with this really cool app we could do. I combed through their website and I looked at some things that could be improved upon, and they picked me for the job. But 2 weeks into training, I realized I just assumed that their website, the back end of it would be WordPress, and it was HTML. And I had done like 2 courses in HTML like 5 years ago, and so I kind of faked it until I made it. Like, I Googled HTML codes and I copy and pasted from the back end into a Google Doc so that I would always have access to those codes. And a lot of it was just copy and pasting and Googling and YouTubing and, but a month later, I actually knew how to HTML the back end of that website. So I think sometimes you just gotta make the jump, or confidence can really sell you and make you maybe grow up a level from where you think you're at. I once heard that, like, if you're 60% qualified for the job or the position, that you should 100% apply for it. So yeah, confidence is a really good thing to have. And then persistence, hard work pays off. So creating relationships that you can build to generate future partnerships or collaborations or resource sharing, And maybe the first time you talk to somebody, that's not the time to ask them for a resource or a donation or a partnership. But the persistence of that relationship, going back, renewing it, checking in, over time, a relationship's going to develop, and that relationship's going to be something that you can lean on in the future for a project or for a favor or things like that. So sometimes these things just don't happen overnight. So be reliable and accountable so that those people that you're building relations or organizations that you're building relationships with will trust you in the future with projects, and then maybe they'll contact you for a project, or maybe you'll be able to share resources in a collaboration, some such thing. But it's persistence. It's, and the first time you hear no, that's the first time you hear no. So make connections and focus on your goals. And what have I got? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So for persistence, I had an example of advertising. So advertising doesn't stop, and they use a technique called decision fatigue. So the first time you are asked a question, and actually, you know what? My 4-year-old uses this too. So the first time she asked me, can I have a cookie? I am definitely like, no, you cannot have a cookie. And then, the second time, like, no. Third time, like, I'm kind of open to negotiations at this point in time, because I don't want to be asked again if you like for another cookie. And then, fourth, whatever, then you start the negotiations. There's like a back and forth. Anyways, in the end, she ends up with a cookie. So, and it's decision fatigue that happens, and advertisers know it, but then also we can use it as project managers. Like, we can go and be like, hey, do you want to donate some paint? No? Okay, cool. Like, anyways, if you need anything from me ever, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, did you want to donate some paint? And, over, I don't know, a couple of years or whatever, you might get a yes to that question. And if not, you just keep getting a no. Who cares? So yeah, the thing with persistence, hard work pays off. Put in the hours and you'll see the results eventually. Also, I wanted to mention here that sometimes it feels like you're not getting where you want to go with a project or in life. Like, life is just one big project you're trying to manage. So sometimes it feels like you're not receiving opportunities that you think that maybe you deserve. And I just want people to know that if they stay the course, things eventually do start to move in that direction. It may be slowly, it may not be on like the time frame that you imagined it should, but persistence does pay off. And if you just keep moving in the direction of that goal, eventually things will move in that direction as well, in your personal life and in project managing. As an example, like in my 20s, I came out of school. I was ready to conquer the art world. I had my education. I had curated a few shows with friends and independently for a couple small galleries. And I had my first full-time arts administration job. Like, I was ready to rock. And I applied for every grant, every project that came into my apparatus, and nothing, like literally nothing. I didn't get approved for anything for like the first year. And then it was like some small stuff here and there. And I'm not going to lie, like, it was pretty demotivating. And it was hard not to take it personally. But I stayed the course and I stayed focused, and I focused my energy on specific projects that aligned with my vision, mission, and mandate for my future goals. And so I was more targeted. I didn't waste so much time on things that didn't really, sync with what I was doing, that I was just applying for an opportunity. So then you're not wasting as much of your time and energy, and you can be a little bit more effective and efficient with these applications. And then those projects, when you do finally start getting approval on them, they'll be more apt to propel you into the future direction that your goal is oriented towards. So now in my 30s, with some hindsight, I realized that although I had a lot of experience and qualifications to attempt these larger projects I was applying for, I had not yet built the skills and experiences I needed to be successful as in these projects. And the jurors could probably see that in my application. And it doesn't mean not to try if you're not qualified. Like I said before, if you're 60% qualified, you should 100% apply. But you can't assume that, you should apply, because you can assume that the grantors and clients, like, you don't know what they're looking for. Like, maybe they do want to give, someone a shot that's not as experienced in their career, or they do want an emerging artist on the project, or there's some sort of mentorship built into the project. So, it doesn't hurt to apply. Just be strategic about what you're applying for, and if it meshes with, your achievable goals that you want. And then also the act of putting together applications, you'll always be learning something, and it'll strengthen your application skills. So it'll make you better, stronger, faster, and more efficient as an applicant in the future. And if you stick to your goals and stay focused and keep adding skills to get you closer to your end result, eventually you will start to see approvals in those applications. It may take time and perseverance, but as long as you're constantly moving towards your end goal direction, you will eventually, you'll see the movement there. And then consistency. If you are continually meeting the goals that you set for your projects and for yourself, people will recognize this, and they'll reward you with inviting you to participate in more projects. And then the reward of more projects will be more experience, more troubleshooting, more knowledge, and just becoming better at managing projects in the future. So consistency is another important project management skill. These are my project management tools. Obviously, there's probably like a ton more than this, but this is basically what I use at least on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. So I always have a to-do list going. I have a to-do list for my day. I have a to-do list for my week, and then I have a to-do list for my month. And then there's like a grander, just like these things need to accomplish at some point in time to-do list. I like Google Drive. I'm a big fan of having everything up in the cloud, and I can access it from my phone, my laptop, work, Starbucks, whatever. That's how I like to work. But some people may like it more of like a Microsoft, like Excel, Word. Doesn't really matter. Document sharing is really good for working on collaborative projects, especially with multiple organizations. It's good to be able to just share documents, especially during COVID when you're in separate spaces. So the cloud documents are definitely an essential project management tool. And then Slack is really good for communication. Communicating project things keeps you. The thing about Slack is it keeps it all in one space. You're not like texting and emailing and all over the place and like, oh, I can't find Janet's, like, I know she messaged about this thing, or the details are in this thing, but I can't remember. It's all in Slack. So like you just look in Slack, and then you can break it down into different components with like hashtags and stuff about like what you want to talk about. And it organizes communicating about projects really well. Calendar Calendar is so important. You know, put your roadmap in it, put your milestones in it, put your guideposts in it, and put your to-dos in it, and you know, put your doctor's appointments in it. And then yeah, so Hootsuite, Canva, social media. So even if you're not like a social media mogul, Hootsuite, Canva, those can make you look like you are. So get to know them. They can be your really good friends at self-promotion, promoting events, promoting projects that you want to do. They can make them look pretty sweet and save you some time. And then Photoshop. You want to make sure that the documentation that you're doing of your projects looks good. It'll help, you know, get people on board for grantors and people that want to collaborate in the future if your documentation looks good. So Photoshop's a good skill for that. Photoshop's a good skill for social media as well. And then just doing like explaining your ideas to people. Like if it doesn't exist, you can Photoshop it. It's a good one. And the great thing about Photoshop is anything you want to know how to do, you can YouTube. So yeah, you can learn it on YouTube. And then organized online storage and archives. Again, photos. Make sure that like you can pull up your projects easily and find the information easily and the photos easily. So those are important tools. And okay, what is project management? Discipline that requires budgeting, planning, and resource management skills to enable a specific end deliverable to be completed within an allocated time frame. And things that are within this as budgeting, planning, organizing, scheduling, and supervising. Everything that needs to be done in a project as agreed by all parties on time and within budget. So I like to use a SMART objective in my project planning. So an objective is a statement which describes what an individual, team, or organization aims to achieve. And SMART is how you break it down. So it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be achievable, realistic, and timely. And we're gonna break those down just a little bit more. So specific, outline a clear statement precisely and what is required. And then measurable, include a measurable, a measurable enables an organization to monitor the progress and to know when the objective has been achieved. Achievable or attainable, design objectives to be challenging, but not so challenging that you'll cause failure, and not too low so as to, people won't want to commit if it's too easy to. Realistic or relevant, focus on the outcomes rather than the means by which to achieve them. And then timely, that the agreed upon date by which an outcome must be achieved, the deadline. So specific objectives. They should describe the result that is desired in a way that details, focus, and is well defined. The following questions may help you formulate specific objectives. What are the outcomes we are looking for? Is it clear what our objective means? And how is it achievable? And what are the strategies to be followed? What are the next steps? What are we going to do and for whom? Who will be responsible, and does anybody else need to be involved? And when do we want this to be complete? Those will help you get specific about your project goals. Measurable is important because it will help enable you to know whether an objective has been achieved. So measurables the thing that I like to use for measurables here is called the project management triangle. So this was what I was talking to you before about scope creep, like when scope gets too big. So this is the triangle where scope is the size and goals and requirements of the project. Time is the timeline, deadline, and other constraints. And then cost is the budget, the estimated costs, and then there's a cost benefit analysis that you can do as well. And then in the middle is the quality. That's the quality of the project that you're going to complete based on those three things. So when I think about measurable, this is what I think about, and this is what it looks like. So you can have a lot of time and not a lot of money, and that's going to affect your scope. And you can have vice versa. You can have vice versa. I can't remember what it said. Anyways, and so these three things, they all interplay with each other, and your scope can't get too big if you don't have enough time or money to achieve it. So they all need to play a part together. And that's how I do measurables. Achievable. And you want the project to be achievable. That's how you're gonna achieve it on time and on budget. So be realistic about the goals that you set, and what's attainable. And then if the objectives are seen as unachievable, you're going to lose the motivation of your team. And if the objectives are too low, then the team may lose motivation as well. So there's a sweet spot in there of what's achievable and what's going to motivate people to want to get it done. And then you're going to ask yourself questions like, who's going to carry out the actions required? And do we have the necessary skills to do the tasks well? And what resources do we have? And who will bear the responsibility for what? And then realistic and relevant, that's your R in the SMART. Realistic suggests that there's a clear understanding of how the objective might be reached. And then relevant is how it relates to your vision, mission, and mandate. So your goals and why you want to do it. And then timely. Timely, that's your deadline, how you're going to break down your timeline so that you can meet your deadline. That's smart. That's smart. So here are some project keywords. Project goals, you got to figure out your goal. Project knowledge. Project knowledge is like your background knowledge of what you know about things. Like, for instance, in a mural project, what do we know about the community? What do we know about the demographic of the community? What do we know about, how that community operates? And their values, those kind of things. So those are like project knowledge. Like before we go in, we're going to want to know those kind of things before we even start a project. And then facilitation in a mural setting, like you're going to want to discuss things with the community through like a consultation or a vote or a survey, or you're going to want to know what they want to see in their community before you go paint something in there. Time management we discussed, and then communication, and that's your social media, and then also like you're surveying the community, your community consultation, and making sure that there's a two-way between your project and where you're putting it on. And then troubleshooting, you're just constantly troubleshooting throughout a project. There's things that you're not going to be able to predict that arise, and you've just got to be quick on your toes. So just, prepare for not being prepared. And then patience and respect. Those are just things you should show up to work with. So when you're working in a project with other people and collaborating, those are important. Okay, guidelines and criteria. What do you want to accomplish with this project? Why are you doing it? Those are a good thing to lay out clearly. And how will the project be paid for? is the money for this project coming from? If you need to write grants, those deadlines need to be on your timeline, and the time to write those grants need to be on your timeline. If you need to approach sponsors, that needs to be on your timeline, and how and when and who, and like maybe you need time to research that stuff on your timeline, things like that. And then, or if you're paying for it, like how many hours at work do you need to work before you're going to have enough money to pay for this project? Those are things to consider. Are you accountable? Oh, yeah. So who's involved in the project, and are you like, do you have to go back to a board, a committee, the public, community, or are like you able to just make these decisions yourself? Those are things to consider. And then is this part of a larger project? Is it a component of a project? Like for instance, like cultural days that's on right now, there'll be organizations that have their own event that they're putting on, but it's part of this very larger project, the cultural days. So that's an example of maybe your project's part of a larger project. Do you have experience and resources? Again, like, do you have the time and energy to commit to this project? And then listing off like the assets and resources that you have versus what you could leverage. And what is the expected lifespan of this project or mural? So are you planning on having it up in public until the building comes down? Or is it going to get painted over in 4 months? Are you okay if a condo comes in and, you know, builds over it? Or, you know, those are discussions that you should have on a project about what the end result and the lifespan is going to be. And then who takes final responsibility? You know, is the building in a mural situation, is the building owner, the person who owns the wall, are they the end result responsible for it? Is the artist responsible for fixing it up? Is the project manager or the organization, the funder, the grantors, like who's responsible for maintaining the project? And then 3 stages of mural production, the planning research, that's your post-production, and then on-site mural production, painting on site with, and then wrap up and maintenance. And that's your final part of the project, which you're also going to want to get feedback on as well. And so responsibilities, so these can be switched back and forth, just generally in projects that Mural Roots does. Mural Roots as the administrators take on like the budget and financial management, creating timelines, human resources, like volunteer recruitment or, artists recruitment, and community participant recruitment. Site selection, artist competition, contracts and permits, insurance, health and safety, especially important during COVID, and reporting, communications, events, celebrations, promotions, media relations, and maintenance schedules. And then the project manager, which can sometimes be the artist, can sometimes be the administrator of the arts organization, can sometimes be contracted from outside, but their main job would be to liaison between the artist, the client, and the partners, like the parties involved, developing the work plan, ensuring the time management, the on-site management, being on site, ensuring the safety on site, and the training protocols, and community outreach. Documentation, like I said, good documentation is important because that's what you're going to use to sell yourself in the future or projects that you do. And then reporting and communication, event management, if there's like, sorry, I can't think of it right now. celebration of the end, like a grand opening or unveiling. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. And troubleshooting, like I said, we're constantly solving problems. Okay. Who is the project manager? This is what I was talking about. Sometimes it can be the artist manager, the arts organization, the community group, the funders, the clients. Just important to outline whose role is what in a project, so very clearly, so that you know, toes don't get stepped on later in the project when it starts to unfold a little bit more. And yeah, again, same kind of idea about who's the project lead, and then who's building the team, and then defining the roles and responsibilities clearly, who's taking on what, and in like a project setting too, like if you've been assigned a responsibility or something that is like outside your wheelhouse, or you're not going to get it done, like let the team know, and other people will help you. It's not like an end all be all. It's just to you know, fairly work things out together so that we can all be working towards the end goal. But like don't take on too much, or if you feel like you've taken on too much, like let somebody know. There's like always people that can help, or so that, you know, we're constantly working on the timeline and making it to the same thing. And so yeah, that's important. Like know your role and responsibilities, but also like reach out to people on your team if you need a hand with something too, or you know, you need shown something. You know, it's really, working in a team is a really good way to learn from other people that you're working with, because everybody's coming in with different experiences and backgrounds, and that's like part of the great part of working in these kind of teams. And then what is the purpose, what's the target audience, and what outcomes do you expect? Those are all going to clearly get you to your goal and end results. And then delegating tasks. Again, like your work plan, timeline, and yeah, we know how to delegate tasks. And okay, so a sample work plan. This is what a sample work plan might look like. And then you're going to fill it out, and it's going to kind of look something like this. Like, you're going to be planning from April to July, and then you're going to have the proposals and the plan for the project done by the end of July. And then there's your grant. Your grant's due on April 15th. That's 50% of your goal budget. And then on April 30th, you've got a fundraising activity. So if you've got a project with any sort of fundraising in it, the fundraiser, that gets like another project management work plan, like timeline, work plan, everything. Like a fundraiser is a project. It might be a project to make this project go, but that also, you're going to have to plan it out, just go through all the steps of the fundraiser too, and even if it's just to fund this project. And yeah, then you've got your deadlines, getting the artist to submit their proposals, selecting an artist, how you're going to select an artist. Is it going to be a jury, a committee, a vote from the community, those kind of things. Press releases, when those are going to launch out, your painting days, and then your unveiling celebration. And then you're going to have like some follow-up with the community, and do a survey to get some feedback so that you can plan your next project and know where you can do a better job. So project partners, you can partner with the community. Partnerships are great because you can share resources. So partnerships don't necessarily have to always be monetary. You can do in-kind services. You can partner up with another organization or another artist, and then just use your social media as, you know, an in-kind service that you can offer to each other. Like, if you promote my show, I'll promote your show. and we'll have this cross-pollination of people that, you know, aren't just our friends. So promotions, and then you can do like in-kind services, like every Starbucks has a community pot or whatever that is supposed to be donated to community events. So you can go to your local Starbucks and be like, look, this is a local community thing and we'd like you to provide coffee. And so you'll have coffee. That's in kind. PainT, that's another one. You can often go to like paint supply stores or something and then you can donate that. And then just be sure to have clear roles and responsibilities, create a momentum of understanding with any partnerships that you have. It's kind of like a contract that you'll both adhere to, so that if there's any discrepancies or disagreements, you can look back and say, this is what I agreed to give and this is what you agreed to give. And then fulfill your obligations so people have trust in you, which is important in relationship building. And then choosing a theme or a subject. This is very mural specific. And so you're going to choose that theme or subject based on the audience, the who, what, why, and when of the project, and then also your artist expression, what the artist would like to do, and then whose role is this? Select a committee or a jury, an artist, property owner. So that would be who gets to choose the theme or the subject. Anyways, this is also very mural specific, and the reason I kind of wanted to touch on it was like the size of your wall can affect the budget, time frame, and execution of your project, but also where you're planning on having your projects can do the same type of thing. Like, are you having your project outside, inside, in the basement of a church, in a grand hall? Those things are going to affect your triangle, the scope, the time frame, and the budget. So, you know, smaller things, smaller scope, smaller time frame, smaller budget, or bigger things, bigger. And so that's why I kept this in, and not so much about size, surface, shape, and materials, but just thinking about the components of your project and how those are going to affect your your project management triangle. And then selecting artists. If your project involves selecting an artist, here are some ways that you can do it. You can do it through a competition, a request of expression of interest, a request of a proposal, quotations, commissions. You can do a competition or an artist call. When you do an artist call or a competition, include the size, location, themes that you'd like to see, fees that or request quotes, and then the role of the client's information and the application process, and expectations if the artist should be chosen. Contracts are great to have in projects, and they basically just keep people accountable for their part of the project. And the checklist of your contracts, liability, the resource person, working conditions, divisions of responsibility, copyright, fees and payment schedule, and at the bottom there, and I'll share it in the link too in the chat when we get to that point, for the CARFAC there. CARFAC is a suggested amount of artist fees that should be paid for artwork. So it's a really good guideline for any sort of project that you're including an artist or to check the Carfax fees, and those will let you know what is a fair fee to pay artists. And then copyright laws are extremely complicated, but basically what you're going to want to try and figure out if you're working with an artist is like essentially the original artwork is the artist's copyright, like the artist has the copyright to that. But then you're going to want to figure out reproductions and yeah, the copyrights around that. Like, are the artists going to give permission to people to photograph the work? Is the mural, for instance, going to be allowed to be shared by the owner of the wall, the organization that helped put it on? Like, if the image gets reproduced, what is the artist comfortable with that? Like, is it okay if it's produced in promotional materials? So those are things that you need to you know, sit down and include in contract and clearly outline with your artist. And I'll put these links in the chat. Insurance. So depending on what your project is, you might need personal accident insurance, you might need third-party liability insurance, and you might need worker safety insurance board insurance. So especially if you're working with like volunteers on site, those kind of things. So figure out what insurance needs you need for the project, so that everybody that's involved in the project is safely insured in case there's any accidents, and you're also, you know, not liable. That's important. Health and safety. So especially during our COVID, we want to be adhering to COVID regulations. We want to minimize on-site hazards, PPE, COVID. So just be aware of, you know, the health and safety restrictions of your projects. Like for us dealing with paint, we need to make sure that the paint's like non-toxic. And if people are using aerosols, that they're wearing them, like they're wearing the masks. And yeah, so health and safety is going to be part of your timeline, and training too, training people on health and safety. And then community involvement is like, our murals are most successful because we connect with the local community and encourage them to participate. So, and then here's just like the on-site. So finally you've planned and now you get to execute the project. And then wrap up, celebrate and thank. Make sure you thank everybody involved in the project, and you know, have a celebration and unveiling. And then a closure. Make sure the artists are satisfied, that the clients are satisfied, all payments, final payments are wrapped up, and then yeah, if there's any maintenance obligations, what's the maintenance plan going forward? There we go. And then after everything's all said and done, you're going to want to collect some feedback from the participants in the projects, the volunteers, the artists, the community members, the clients, etc. And then use this data for planning improvements in your future projects. The data is also helpful in writing reports. And then ways data can be collected is through surveys, questionnaires, conversations, and interviews with the participants. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. So I'm opening it up for questions, and I'm gonna figure out how to put these links in the chat box. So if you'd like to become Mural Roots member, it's for an individual artist. There's the link. It's $50, and you get a profile on our website where you can add your portfolio, and that's a really good web presence. And also, if we have anybody that calls and asks for a mural artist, we can direct them to the directory that's on our website, and they can scroll through and find you and contact you that way. Also, we really support our members. We do a monthly member meetup where members are encouraged to share their current projects and share contact information and collaborate if they'd like to. And we also do a quarterly newsletter where we interview one of our members and share that with anybody who's on our news mailing list. So that's really good exposure as well. And then you receive discounts on local art supply stores, but also we put out artist calls and job opportunities ahead of time on our members mailing list. So that is one way to get involved with us. And then, like I said, there is a free PDF download here at the handbook there that you can download and read all about mural production for free. And here is the link for signing up for our newsletter. So sign up for our newsletter. It's free and no obligation. Copy. And in case you haven't found us on Facebook yet, here you go. What have I done?
So we have a question in the Q&A from Shannon. Shannon says thank you, and just wanted to know whether you think your arts admin degree from Humber was crucial in you securing certain job opportunities in your career, or whether or not you can access these kinds of opportunities without a formal degree.
The answer is yes to both. So the program at Humber was really great, and the instructors that they hire at Humber that help teach the course are all very infused in the Toronto art scene. So this is the thing, is if you're going to be a Toronto resident, that program's great because it connects you with a lot of leaders in the Toronto organizations, and then you get kind of like fueled right in there, and it's a good jumping off point, and you get a lot of connections. But if you're in Ottawa, or if you're going to be like even in Hamilton, like not like I'm just saying like anywhere outside of Toronto, like nobody knows the instructors, and it's not the same kind of support system. There's not the same support system. So even though there's a lot of good things that have been learned, or like that I learned and stuff, like a lot of the great thing about that program is how supported I was going into my career in Toronto, because I knew so many people with a lot of experience in Toronto from having them as instructors. So but so that's the side of like, I definitely really like that program, and I would say like 50% of the people that were in that course are working full-time in arts administration jobs like a year later during COVID. But it's all in Toronto. So yes to the arts administration thing, but maybe if you find like an arts administration thing in your area, and it's like the same thing where like those teachers are doing things in that area, and like you're going to come out and be supported by those instructors in that area, then that's like maybe a good investment. But Then the other thing that I do want to say is that a lot of this project management stuff, like, and I only touched on like a couple, like there is so, you can go down the project management like wormhole. There's so many different theories on how to manage a project or how to organize it. So I just took some like very basic, or like I just took like the very basics from Wikipedia, but these can start you down the wormhole. And so like the project management triangle, that's just like one principle. I find it really easy to remember, and so it guides me, but there's some like way more complicated theories on project management that that like I just like, they don't come to me as quickly or whatever. So you could totally teach yourself project management if you just like dedicated an hour or two a day to reading the project management literature that's online. And then a lot of project management and being good at project management isn't things that are taught. They're like skills that you work on, like being motivated, being ambitious, and like having energy to like go out and like site visit and recruit people and talk to people and get them energized about the project that you're doing and want to like contribute to it or support it. Things like that. So like if you're really good at speaking with people, I'm not saying like you have to be this person either. Like there are good project managers out there that aren't like speaking to people all the time. This is just my personal experience. But I wouldn't say, I would say I was this person and then I went and sought the education that coupled my skills already. Like I said, like I was already planning projects and events like from the time I was in grade 8. Like I was always throwing a event or a project or a party or and so when I found curating, I was like, oh, it's like a glorified event planner. Like that's what I want to do. And so that's why I went to OCAD for criticism and curatorial practices. But then when I got into like the curatorial world, it was not exactly it. It was a little bit it, but not exactly it. So I kind of fell into just like running my own communications consultant business because I knew a lot of bar owners and restaurants that didn't even have Facebook accounts at the time that this was starting up. It was like the start of Facebook, and Instagram wasn't even a thing, and Twitter was kind of a thing. So I was able to sign up like a lot of the downtown court and manage their social media accounts. So I did that for a while. And then one of my contacts asked me if I wanted to help start up a bar. And so I already, like, I didn't go to school to start up a bar. I just like knew how to manage my time, write out a to-do list of what things need to be done, put that on a timeline and create a plan and then stick to it as best as I could. And, be troubleshooting along the way and solving problems in order to get the restaurant open by the deadline, which, yeah, so like that was all self-taught stuff, and it was all skill building. Like it's just like you get good at one thing and then it gets a little better, and it's just from practice. Like it's a practice. It totally is a practice, like yoga practice. You just keep practice being better at organizing your time or planning out events and like adhering to a timeline and adhering to a budget, and eventually it kind of becomes second nature. And there are things that you can learn in school that maybe make a little bit more sense faster, but not, I wouldn't say it's necessary. I think the necessary thing to do is to start a project, complete a project. Like even if it's just like, I don't know, knit a sweater or like start something that has a start point and an end point, and like see how you are to get there. Like, does it take you a long time? Do you meander? Are you like don't sleep until you get there, which isn't healthy, by the way. Burnout's not good. But it's kind of figuring out like who you are while the project's going on, and then how you're going to execute it, and how you're going to execute it with the confidence that everyone involved in the project is going to be able to come to you as the manager and have the confidence that you know how to delegate or direct them in which way, so that the project's going to be completed successfully, and it's going to look like what you envisioned at the beginning of the onset of it. So I would say, like, start a project. It doesn't need to be a project that someone's paying you to do, or some, like, even like if it's a, I don't know, like something around your house. Like, I don't know, do you want to build a shed, or like paint a room or something? Like, start one project, and then eventually you're going to get the skills to complete another project, and then your projects are just going to get bigger and more consistent, and you're going to grow confidence, and then eventually you're going to go out and seek more projects or collaborations or whatever, and I think it just kind of rolls from there. But it takes time and persistence.
So I think you touched on budgeting briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I think a lot of artists and independent people managing projects, putting on events, doing artistic projects, and working really for themselves or for a small community, have difficulty with cash flow management. And I was wondering if you had any tools or strategies that you can recommend for dealing with it when you're trying to manage a project and the cash flow isn't lining up, or you're starting up with, you know, $500 of your own money trying to make a party happen or a mural happen. What can you be doing, or what resources can you be tapping into to try and stretch that as far as possible, and manage when cash is coming in and out?
Yeah, so like for me as an art organization, I need to be very aware of what grants are available out there through things like the Toronto Art Council, the Ontario Art Council, and then there's we have a Toronto street art too, that you can apply for murals and grants for murals. So though, like, those are revenue generating things for me. So I need to have those on my timeline. Time to write the grant, time to submit the grant, like those have to be there. And so yeah, grant writing is a really good revenue generating thing. And then, like, if you have $500 to throw an event, and then you need to look at writing down the resources that you have and the resources that you need to acquire. And then there's going to be basically like asking, like approaching people to get in-kind services. And part of that is being able to get them to buy into the project or event that you're planning. So you're gonna have a very clear vision, mission, like, of this project, of this event that you're throwing on, and something that's gonna get them hyped about it. And so that when you go to Loblaws and you say, I need like a vegetable tray and a fruit tray for this artist panel that I'm going to be having on the weekend, and there'll be maybe, I don't know, like 40 people there, and I'll let those 40 people know that the fruit tray or cheese tray came from Loblaws. So the trade-off is you get the free food from Loblaws, and Loblaws gets to advertise to the people that are attending your event. So that's like a way that you can use resources, or use your event to gain resources. Another thing you can do too, so they're called like a sponsor deck. And so at the bottom of your advertisements, there's space. You'll see some, like, a lot of times it's like TD or bank, or if you're a really big organization that gets like lucky enough to have that kind of funding, but it doesn't need to be banks. Like it could be the local thrift store, or it could be the local game store, coffee shop, or whatever. Like you can go in and go, look, I'm going to be printing off 100 posters, or like this is going to be going around on social media. I have X amount of followers on Instagram, and I'll put your name over everything I'm doing for this event for $100, $200, whatever the cost is. Like, and you go to 10 different shops and ask for $100, and you put 10 different small logos at the bottom of your image, and then you have $1,500 for your event. But keeping a budget, like I always do my budgets on the cloud too. Like everything I do is in a Google Doc. So I use the Excel version, like the Google Excel version or whatever, but I always have it on me. So money in, money out, and you don't want to be operating a deficit. So, yeah. So, and if you do run yourself into a deficit, then you got to get creative about, who you can approach or how you can get those funds. And if you're an independent artist, like you can't be covering deficits for events, but some organizations are able to cover a deficit into the next year, but it's more complicated, and they generally have accountants that are figuring out how long they can carry a deficit for before they look like they're going to tank. So, but yeah, having a clear, write it in, money out for gas, money in for this. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be 2 columns, what the thing was, and then did it come out or did it go in? And then at the bottom, you have a total. And it's break it down however is easiest for you to keep track of it, but keep track of your budgets. And another good thing is if you're good at making a budget, grantors really like to see that. So it's a good skill to have when you're proposing a project. If your budget is reasonable, you're more likely to get the money from a grantor. So that's another piece of advice I would give.
Well, thank you so much. Project management is huge, and I think as you've illustrated, it's a really, really complicated thing. But you've really managed to break it down into a really bite-sized entry point for our communities. So thank you so much for your time, Janine. We are going to have to stop here because we're starting a new session right at 3:30. Our next session is going to be Taking Your Arts Practice Online, a panel with 5 artists from Ottawa, and New York, and Texas, of all places. But thank you again so much for sharing with us. Is there any final thoughts you would like to leave us with, or any resources? Or
just feel free to contact me if you have any further questions or want to get in touch with me for any reason. I'm totally open to being contacted. So yeah, that's great. And thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, we'll definitely do this again. All right. Have a great afternoon.
Take care.
Thank you.